Disclaimer: this content is intended for mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised. My name is Elise. I'm 32. And lately, I've been feeling like I'm disappearing. Not in some dramatic, poetic way, just like I'm fading. Quietly. The moment that's been haunting me, what I'm about to tell you, might sound small to someone else. Dumb, even. But it wasn't small to me. We were at the bar that night. Just like always, him with his bourbon, me with my glass of red, leaning into each other like we used to, trying to recapture whatever spark was still flickering. I was talking to an old coworker I hadn't seen in years. Just catching up, nothing deep. And I didn't introduce him. I didn't forget. I just didn't. I don't even know why. Maybe I didn't want to. Maybe I didn't feel like playing the role of his adoring partner right then. Or maybe part of me was hoping he wouldn't mind. But he did. God, he really did. I saw it in the way he leaned back on his stool afterward, arms folded, lips pressed into that thin, silent line. And then the pivot, the laugh too loud, the eye contact too long, with two women who walked in wearing mini dresses and that energy that turns men into idiots. He flirted with both of them. Right in front of me. And not playfully. Not the way couples sometimes tease to stir up a spark. No, this was pointed. Strategic. He wanted me to see. And I did. I smiled. I even laughed at one of his jokes, because I didn't want to cause a scene. But inside, I felt something twist. That was 3 weeks ago. I haven't said a word to him about it. We've been together 6 years. Moved in together after 2. For a long time, it was the kind of love that felt like home. Safe. Sexy. Easy. We had our rituals, the Sunday pancakes, the Wednesday night sitcoms, the long kisses goodbye that always lingered a little too long, even when we were late. I remember how I used to crave him. The weight of his arm around my waist at night. The way his fingers grazed the inside of my wrist when he passed me a drink. I used to lean into those small touches like they were lifelines. But lately, those same touches feel heavy. Presumptive. Last night, he slid into bed behind me and wrapped his arms around me like he always does. But it didn't feel like comfort. It felt like expectation. His lips brushed my shoulder. I turned toward him, more out of habit than desire. We kissed, but something was missing. The warmth. The pull. The give. And then he pulled away with a sigh, rolled onto his back, and stared at the ceiling. No words. Just that space between us, thick and silent. We don't fight. Not really. But we don't talk much either, not about the things that matter. I think we're both too scared of what we'll find under the surface if we really look. The truth is, I've been shrinking for a while. Saying I'm fine when I'm not. Laughing when something hurts. Sleeping with my back to him and telling myself that closeness will come back if I just wait long enough. But that night at the bar, that was the moment I stopped believing my own story. Because the look he gave me after I didn't introduce him, it wasn't hurt. It was resentment. Like I'd broken some silent contract I didn't know I'd signed. And when he laughed with those girls, leaned in like he used to lean in for me, I realized I wasn't the center of his world anymore. And maybe I hadn't been for a while. Maybe we're just two people sharing a bed, clinging to the ghost of something that once felt like forever. But now I don't know who I am in this relationship. And worse, I don't know if he even sees me anymore. Or if I want him to. Eli is a paramedic. 12-hour shifts. Back-to-backs. Calls in the middle of the night. Sometimes he comes home with blood on his boots, a blank look in his eyes, and this way of touching me like he's checking for a pulse. Like I'm the thing that might bring him back to life. He means well. I know that. But sometimes I wish he'd stop touching me and just talk. Tonight was another example. He came home later than usual, 10:40, maybe. The apartment smelled like burnt microwave popcorn because I forgot it in the middle of spiraling about the laundry, the rent, the dishes still in the sink. I'd been on my laptop all day finishing reports for work. My neck was killing me. My eyes were dry. I hadn't eaten since lunch. I was sitting on the couch with a blanket wrapped around me, not even watching the TV that was playing. He walked in, kicked off his boots, and dropped his keys in the bowl by the door. "Hey, babe." His voice was tired but soft, almost apologetic. He always came home like that, part of him still in the back of an ambulance somewhere. I didn't say much. Just a half-hearted hey and a glance over my shoulder. He came over and immediately pulled me into a hug. Buried his face in my hair. Hands running down my back like a reflex. But I stiffened. And he felt it. "What's wrong?" he asked. I wanted to say, "I need you to ask me about my day. I need you to sit beside me, not on me. I need to feel like a person, not a pressure valve you release with your hands." But I didn't. I just said, "I'm tired." He kissed my neck anyway. Whispered, "Missed you." I closed my eyes. Let him hold me. Tried to make my body believe what my heart couldn't feel. He kissed me again, a little slower, his hands already creeping under the blanket. And I didn't stop him. Not really. I just didn't help. He pulled back eventually, sensing the lack of response. "Elise," he said. Just my name. Not angry. Just confused. I looked at him and said something I think I'll regret. "Do you even see me? Or am I just what you come home to?" He blinked, stunned. His mouth opened, then closed. "What's that supposed to mean?" "I mean," I said, already feeling the heat rise to my face, "you don't ask how I'm doing. You don't notice when I'm quiet. You come in, and you go straight to this." I gestured vaguely between us. Like sex is supposed to fix everything. His face hardened. Not cruel, just wounded. "I'm trying to connect with you," he said. "I touch you because I love you. You think it's just sex?" I looked away. "I don't know what it is anymore." He stood up, ran a hand through his hair. Paced a little. Then said, almost too quietly, "I hold dying people all day, Elise. Sometimes kids. Sometimes teenagers. I come home and I need to hold someone who's alive. Someone I love. That's not about sex." And suddenly I felt like the villain. Because he was trying. In his way. But it still didn't feel like enough. Because love isn't just about how someone holds you. It's about whether they listen when you're breaking quietly. Whether they sit next to you and let the silence be safe instead of heavy. I was hurting. But so was he. Just in ways neither of us had the words for. And that's when I realized, we weren't speaking the same language anymore. He was touching me to say I'm here. And I was pulling away because I needed him to ask me where I went. It happened again this morning. Saturday. No alarms. Just sunlight and silence and the dog snoring at the foot of the bed. I was lying on my side, half awake, thinking about whether we had any coffee filters left, when I felt his hand slide across my hip. A soft pull. Familiar. Then his breath against the back of my neck. Warm. "Morning," he mumbled, voice still gravelly from sleep. I didn't answer. Just lay there, frozen in that in-between space of maybe I could want this and God, please not right now. He kissed the top of my shoulder. Light. Tender. The kind of kiss he used to give me when we were first falling in love. And I hated that I felt nothing. Not revulsion. Not anger. Just this dull, leaden numbness. He pressed closer. His hand drifted lower, fingertips skimming under the hem of my shirt. I flinched. It was small. Barely noticeable. But he felt it. I know he did. He paused. You okay? He asked softly. I hesitated. Yeah. Just cold. You want me to stop? I hated that he even had to ask. I hated that I didn't know the answer. It's fine, I said. And it was. Technically. He kissed the back of my neck again. I closed my eyes and tried to will my body to respond. To remember. To want. But I couldn't stop thinking about the dishes in the sink. Or how I hadn't called my mom back. Or that email I forgot to send. His hand moved slowly across my stomach. I turned onto my back suddenly. Actually. I need to pee. I got up too fast. Grabbed my robe. Avoided his eyes. Sorry, I said, already walking toward the bathroom. He didn't say anything. I sat on the edge of the tub with the door closed, robe clutched around me like armor. My face in my hands. I wasn't angry. Not really. I was confused. Guilty. Resentful, even though I knew he hadn't done anything wrong. He was trying. I could see that. But every time he touched me lately, it felt like a test I was failing. Every kiss felt like the beginning of something I didn't want to finish. And then the same thought I'd been swallowing for weeks surfaced again, bitter and sharp and shameful. It happened at dinner. We were at that Italian place on Fifth, the one with the string lights on the patio and the cheap wine that always tastes better outside. Eli had made a reservation. He even shaved and wore that button-down I once said I liked. I should have been touched. I know that. But the whole night, something felt off. He kept reaching for my hand across the table, brushing my knuckles with his thumb. Smiling like we were fine. Like I was fine. And I smiled back, mechanically. Said all the right things. Nodded. Laughed when I should. Until he leaned in and said, with this warm glint in his eye, remember that night in Asheville, when we snuck into the hotel pool? You were wearing that red bikini I couldn't stop looking at. He said it like a compliment. Like nostalgia. But I heard it like a mirror held up to everything we used to be. Everything I wasn't now. I looked down at my barely touched pasta. And before I could stop myself, I said, do you ever miss me? Or just the version of me that wanted to have sex in hotel pools? He blinked. The smile fell. What? You talk about that night like it was romantic. But all I remember is feeling drunk and cold and pretending I was into it because I didn't want to kill the mood. He stared at me like I'd slapped him. Jesus, Elise. Where is this coming from? I didn't even know. Or maybe I did. Maybe it had been coming for weeks. Months. I kept going. Everything with you always has to turn into something physical. Every hug turns into a grope. Every kiss has a weight behind it. I can't even relax without feeling like I'm disappointing you. His jaw tightened. He leaned back in his chair, arms crossed now. So what, you think I'm some horny teenager who doesn't care how you feel? No, I said too quickly. I think you don't notice when I'm not okay. You just try to touch it away. Like that's supposed to fix everything. He shook his head. I don't know what you want from me. I make time, I show up, I try, Elise. But every time I reach for you, you pull away. I could feel the eyes on us from the next table. I lowered my voice, but I couldn't stop the tears. I pull away because I'm tired of being touched when I don't feel seen. We sat there. Silent. His face hard and unreadable. My eyes blurry and hot. The waiter came by awkwardly with a dessert menu, but neither of us touched it. We left in silence. That night, I lay on the far edge of the bed while he stared at the ceiling. Not speaking. My face was still puffy from crying. My chest still hollow with guilt. I didn't know if what I said was fair. I didn't know if it was even true. Maybe I'd twisted the past out of proportion. Maybe he did love me the right way, just not the way I needed now. Maybe I'd humiliated him in public. Maybe I was the problem. I curled into myself and whispered the question I couldn't stop asking. It's been 3 weeks. We still live in the same apartment. Still share the same bed. Still pass each other in the hallway, brushing shoulders like strangers in a crowded train station. But we don't really see each other anymore. The mornings are the worst. Eli used to kiss me on the forehead before leaving for his shift, even if I was half asleep. I used to feel the warmth of his lips before I opened my eyes. Now, the door clicks shut before the sun is even up. I hear the keys. The boots. The soft creak of the floorboard near the front door. But no kiss. No goodbye. He doesn't touch me unless he has to. And the weirdest part? I miss him. God, I miss him. I miss the weight of his body next to mine. The smell of his shampoo when he nuzzled into my neck after work. The stupid way he'd hum 80s love ballads in the shower and yell at me to bring him a towel because he forgot, again. But I don't know how to go to him. Because I was the one who pushed him away. And he's hurting too. I see it in the way he avoids eye contact. The way he skips dinner now and eats standing over the sink, phone in hand. I see it in the way he pauses outside the bedroom door before walking in, like he's preparing himself for a place that used to be home and now just feels tense. I hear it in his voice when he does speak, calm, even polite, but no longer warm. I caught him crying once. A few nights ago. I got up to get a glass of water and found him sitting on the couch in the dark, holding an old photo of us from our first trip to the coast. He didn't hear me at first. His thumb was tracing my face in the picture. I stood there for a second too long. The floor creaked, and he turned. Wiped his face fast. Couldn't sleep, he said, like it was nothing. I wanted to cross the room. Crawl into his lap. Apologize for all of it, even the parts that weren't mine. But I didn't. I just nodded and said, me neither. Then went back to bed and cried into my pillow so he wouldn't hear me. Tonight, I'm sitting on the bathroom floor. Wrapped in his old hoodie. Everything smells like him. And I'm staring at my reflection in the mirror, trying to remember the version of me who used to feel wanted and alive and here. I don't know when I started disappearing. Maybe when I stopped voicing what I needed. Maybe when I started flinching. Maybe when I assumed he'd just know. And maybe, he's been lost too. Touching me the only way he knew how to say, I still love you. Don't go. And I mistook that for pressure. Maybe we both did this. I exhale slowly. My hands are trembling as I reach for my phone. His contact is already pulled up. My thumb hovers over the call button. And I think, do I want to try again? Or walk away before we destroy what little we have left? My chest aches with wanting him. But wanting him isn't the same as knowing how to fix this. I close my eyes. And I whisper to the room, barely audible, that night, I didn't call him. But I didn't walk away either. The next morning, he was sitting on the couch again, in scrubs, elbows on his knees, staring at the floor like he didn't know how to leave or how to stay. I stood in the hallway for a while, heart knocking. Then I walked over and sat down beside him. Not close enough to touch. But close enough that he could feel I was there. He didn't look at me. I miss you, I said quietly. His shoulders tensed. He ran a hand down his face, then finally turned to me. His eyes were bloodshot, tired. You miss the me I was, or the me now? I looked at him for a long time. And then I said, I miss the way you used to see me. And I miss the way I used to feel around you. Safe. Soft. Not just touched, but held. In every way. He blinked, once. Twice. Like he wasn't ready for that kind of truth. I didn't know you felt that far away, he said. I just kept thinking, if I showed you I wanted you, it'd make you feel loved. I know, I said. But I needed you to ask where I was. Not just reach for me and hope I hadn't drifted too far. We sat there in silence. And for the first time in weeks it didn't feel loaded. It felt honest. He reached out, slowly, like giving me the chance to move, and took my hand. His fingers were cold. Rough. Familiar. I don't know how to fix all of this, he said. But I don't want to keep guessing what you need. You have to tell me. Even when it's hard. I will, I said. If you slow down and listen. Before you touch. He nodded. No smile. Just something in his eyes softening. I rested my head on his shoulder. We didn't kiss. We didn't make love. We just sat there, two people who had almost lost each other. Trying, in the quiet, to begin again. And when he finally whispered, I don't want to keep hurting you, I whispered back, then don't love me like everything has to turn into sex. He didn't answer. But he pulled the blanket over us. And for the first time in a long time, his touch felt like what it used to, not a demand. Just a place to rest. I used to think desire meant being wanted. That if someone reached for me, touched me, kissed me, pulled me close, it meant I was safe. Chosen. But I've learned that being wanted isn't the same as being understood. And that sometimes, when you don't feel seen, even the gentlest touch can feel like pressure. Eli and I, we're still figuring it out. Some days we get it right. Some days we still miss each other completely. But now, at least, we say the quiet things out loud. Now I tell him when I need space, and he listens. He tells me when he feels shut out, and I try to let him in. It's clumsy. It's slow. But it's real. And that's what I've learned, that love isn't just about closeness. It's about presence. About staying when the silence gets awkward. About asking before assuming. About loving someone not just how you want to love, but how they need to be loved. Desire fades. Bodies change. Touch becomes routine. But being held in the hard moments, that stays. Whether we make it forever or not, I'll never forget the night he just sat beside me and didn't try to fix it. He just let me be there. And that was the first time in a long time I didn't flinch. So if you're listening to this, and you're feeling unseen. If the kisses feel heavy and the hugs feel confusing, ask yourself, do I feel loved? Or just wanted? Am I touching to connect? Or to avoid the silence? And then ask the harder thing, what kind of intimacy do I actually need? Because when you know that, you stop begging to be understood. You start asking. And sometimes, that's when someone finally says, I hear you. I'm still here.